we have a whole new religion devoted to separating us from God, and it's called the woke religion. Hi, my name is Veronica, and this is my WalkAway story. When I was 15 years old, I did one good thing for myself, and I did one bad thing for myself. For the good thing, I walked away from the Democrat Party. For the bad thing, I picked up smoking, which was a filthy and disgusting habit that took me a whole 10 years to get rid of. Now, back when I was 15, even though I wasn't yet old enough to even vote, I made the decision to walk away from the Democrat Party because I could feel that little by little, every year, we were moving away from the core founding principles of our country. We were also moving away ever so slightly from God, and I didn't want to do that. I was a cradle Catholic, and I knew in the Bible that it says that those who choose another God multiply their sorrows. Well, who wants to multiply their sorrows? I know that I didn't want to do that. I love the founding principles, and I love the way the journalist Barry Weiss describes what happened with the founding principles. She said that the founders gave us the best tools for human flourishing ever devised, and I believe that to be true. She further went on to say that the founders planted the seeds for the destruction of slavery, which I also believe. Now, some of you would say, well, when was America ever great for black people? Well, I can think of a lot of examples. However, one comes to mind, and that is that after emancipation, blacks had a 5% literacy rate. But 50 years after that point, they had a 50% literacy rate. So if that is not a description of how well the founding principles worked, I don't know what is. I loved how the founding principles were based on the Bible, how the sovereign man reigns supreme. Because nowadays, everybody is trying to put you into a specific group. We shouldn't do that because the minority of one is the smallest minority we have. I know we like to play oppression Olympics now, where I'm more oppressed than you are oppressed or whatnot, but really, single person, sovereign man is the minority of one. There is nothing smaller than that. In the Bible, it says that we need to be free to do what we ought. Not to do what we feel like doing or what we want to do, but what we ought. And I like that. There is some responsibility that all of us share. Because of all the human flourishing that has been going on all throughout our history, socialism has never really taken a foothold here in this country. However, now that things are going badly for us, socialism is rearing its ugly head. So what I detected a long time ago, that we are moving away from God at a trickle's pace, has now become a cascade. We are definitely moving away from God. And we have a whole new religion devoted to separating us from God, and it's called the woke religion. The leftists try to confuse us with language. For example, the words equity and equality. Equity means an ownership stake. That's why we have the term sweat equity, which means you can put in a lot of effort and create value. You can't just take the term sweat equity and take out the word equity and put in equality, because it doesn't work. It implies that equally we're sweating. Or maybe they do intend that, because we used to argue about what trickle-down wealth and trickle-down economics, and now we have to contend with trickle-up poverty. And that term means that whatever the amount of money that you have or you don't have, it doesn't matter because government will make you poorer. Now take the word progressive. People brag, or at least it sounds good on paper to be progressive. But to me it's not a good word because you're progressing away from the values of our founding principles. In short, you're not progressing towards anything good. In the Bible it says that you're not supposed to envy, but according to the woke religion, you should be concerned with all the money that everybody else is making so that one day you might be able to confiscate it for yourself. And now we're downright doing things such as having all the hubris in the world to think that we can change nature. Now, for $40,000 a pop, you can undergo a brutal medical procedure to change your gender. Back in the old days, if I spoke about sexuality in the workplace, I would be hauled off to HR so fast and either fired outright or suspended for doing so. Now it's okay to talk about sexuality all you want as long as you're doing it in front of kindergartners. It's kind of like back when the serpent told Eve, you don't have to worry about needing God. Heck, you can be God. Talk about snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I believe that's what we're doing. And I believe the Bible is correct when it says, those who choose another God multiply their sorrows. Now I wanted to give you an example of how a devastated people can come back through prayer. In the year 1540, the Aztecs were completely devastated. They had just been conquered by Spaniards. And their way of life was over. They thought the apocalypse was upon them. They had been betrayed by the fellow or competing indigenous tribes. And the Spaniards never would have been able to defeat them had it not been for the competing tribes. So there was that. There was also, their population was decimated because of smallpox. And also, they had all kinds of issues with nature to deal with. They had the solar eclipse, they had tons of earthquakes, and to make matters worse, they weren't able to do human sacrifice anymore, which they had depended on to protect them from the wrath of the gods. And to top all that off, they also had Halley's Comet that appeared that year. And so they had this miles-wide ball of gas and dust to contend with. Now the Spaniards were fighting amongst themselves. Half of them wanted to baptize the indigenous people and bring them into full dignity with themselves. The other half wanted to enslave them and steal the rest of the wealth that they hadn't already gotten. So chaos was everywhere, and the first bishop of Mexico, an attempt was made on his life. Finally, things got so bad that he basically called all the priests together and he placed the entire city on interdict, which means God does not exist here anymore. Let's shut the whole thing down. And all the while, however, he prayed and prayed for God to come back, and God did come back. God answered his prayers. Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared to Juan Diego, a simple indigenous layman, and she asked him to build a church. Now, when she appeared to Juan Diego, she was wearing the sash of motherhood. So she had Jesus in her womb, and she wanted, and she asked for, a bigger house for her son. Basically, she brought the owner of heaven and earth back to us. This is a good example of prayers answered when a people are completely devastated. I believe we're getting to that point, and I, for one, would like to go towards God instead of away from Him. During that time, they were brought back from the brink, and I think we can be brought back from the brink as well. So I'm asking you today to walk away from the Democrat Party. At some point, we have to take a look at, or we have to consider results and not just good intentions. So whether you have to do what I did when I was younger, where I gave up a filthy and disgusting habit, I hope you do the same. I hope you start voting away from the Democrat Party. Whether you have to go cold turkey, or whether you have to just rip the Band-Aid off, whatever you have to do, it'll be worth your while. In conclusion, when we think about President Trump and our founding fathers, and even ourselves, it's helpful to remember that God is fully capable of drawing a straight line with crooked sticks. Thanks very much for listening.
For more great videos, download the WalkAway Social app at walkawaysocial.com. Share your testimonial and join our community.